Welcome to Ketchikan. Ketchikan is the rainiest city in the United States of America.
Yay!
We get 13 feet of rain annually. I mean, we get an awful lot of rain, and so it's quite a rainy place. And we also get snow in the wintertime, but our temperatures stay fairly mild here. Actually, typical day in the summer would be a high of around 60, maybe a little shower or two, or a downpour like we're kind of getting today. And then in the wintertime, our average temperature during December, January, and February, overnight lows are just below freezing at about 31.6 degrees. So we stay really mild. And the reason is because of that water right there. The water out there right now is about 58 degrees. And so a lot of cool comes off of the water in the summertime. In the wintertime, that water will stay about 40 degrees. And so a lot of warmth comes off and pushes the snow line about halfway up the hill. Now this mountain right here is Deer Mountain. It's 3,001 feet above the bay. And he's our weatherman. And here's the way he works. If you can see the mountain, it's going to rain. If you can't see the mountain, it's raining. But the rain is really important to Ketchikan. It is certainly a part of our culture. We need the rain. And so fact is, right now, the biologists were telling us the other day that the pink salmon, we had a stretch of no rain there for a couple of weeks. The pink salmon are out in the bays, and they're schooling, waiting for that flush of water coming down the streams, and then they'll shoot up those streams. So they said now with this rain coming back the next week or two, we should see the streams fill up with pink salmon. Now in the early years of Ketchikan, this was all bay right here that we're on. The bay line came from that corner up there right down in front of the church. And that's St. John's Episcopal, built in 1903. And it actually is built on pylons. The high tide used to wash right up under there. All of this fill came from when they built houses up here. They brought the fill down and just dumped it in the bay, and it kind of pushed the bay back into itself. There was a dock right in front of the church, and the pastor, so many people came to church in their boats, the pastor would schedule services around the high tide so that they could come in their boat, go to service, and then their boat would still be floating at the end of the service, and they could go away. So the strange thing about that is your church service, you might be coming to morning worship in the afternoon. So we might see service at 8 o'clock in the morning. It might be 10, it might be 1, it might be 3. Just whenever that high tide would come in, that's when the pastor would schedule the services. Now folks, as we kind of make a loop around, you see that car coming down Grant Street up there. That's a wood plank street. And many of the hillsides were so steep that it was so difficult to dig out a road bed that the fellas that were working down in the port district, putting in the pylons for the piers, they just simply said, hey, we can put pylons up there and you can build your roads on that. And there's about a dozen streets in Ketchikan that are built exactly that way on pylons. There's Creek Street. Creek Street is, of course, famous for the old brothels, and the ladies, of course, they had their business going there, but their business included more than you might think. They were during Prohibition, they were into illegal alcohol. They were gambling. They were doing all kinds of stuff there on Creek Street. And it was kind of one of those distasteful parts of the city that many of the proper citizens, they particularly didn't like. And
在哪里？
房子角上面，对面房子角上面。中国字在那里看吗？
等一下。那个叫复原了，好像是。
上来一个福字，就慢下来。I see ducks.
Welcome to Potlatch Park. This is a wonderful little park, and we'll have a great time here this morning. This is an extraordinary totem pole. It's actually a historical totem pole that has been around this area for many centuries. In fact, we don't know how long it's been here, but there's a great story connected to it. You can see down at the bottom that there's an owl, and then the next image on the totem is a killer whale. You can see a woman sitting there on the tail of the killer whale, and way up on top is the image of an eagle. The name of this totem pole is Sea Woman. Here's So folks, this that we're standing in is a traditional clan house that the native people would have lived in for centuries. Most of the clan houses started disappearing around 1900. This is called the Thunderbird clan house, and you can see on the back wall there's a beautiful sculpture of a thunderbird. Thunderbird, of course, was a mythological bird that was believed realize one of the things, we're way up here at 55, 60 degrees north latitude here in southeast Alaska, so we see a rare thunderstorm. I've been here since 2012, I've heard thunder one time. And so most of the time you need warm air and cold air mixed together to get a thunderstorm. But in the rare thunderstorm that would happen here, the people couldn't explain what was happening. They had no way to explain the flashes of light and the rumbling and the crashes. And so the Thunderbird became a mythological character that kind of explained the thunderstorm. They thought he was a powerful bird. The light would flash out of his eyes, and his wings were so huge that when he flapped his wing, it'd crash and move. And so they actually had this mythological bird that explained the thunderstorm.
Oh, they keep,
But yeah, amazing.
smoke to get out.
Yeah, exactly. Folks, how many of you went to the 1986 World's Fair in Vancouver, BC?
We did.
Yep.
Did you see that totem pole standing there?
Yeah.
Yeah. That stood at the, it was carved right here in the carving shed that we're going to go into in a few minutes. And that totem stood at the World's Fair in 1986. Vancouver was brought right back here. It was established and stood right there, and it stood there ever since. What we're looking at here, this is a totem that all the carving is finished on this, and you'll notice that they're painting, applying the paint colors. And the one thing about this carving center is they pretty much they try to stay traditional here, and they use the traditional colors. And you'll look over here in the corner. You can see that the traditional colors is the rusty red and the aqua color and the black. And the same thing over here. They try to stay with the traditional colors. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the traditional colors and how the paint was made, because it's kind of an interesting story. These three colors, the black, the aqua color, and the rusty red, were the three available pigments in this area. How many of you know that iron ore will actually rust, and you can scrape that rusty red color off? And of course, copper ore, when you find an outcropping of copper, it'll have that aqua green pigment on it. And then of course, black was easy because it's just charcoal in the fire pit. Here's how they made the paint. What they would do